make paper, yeah, I make paper. Just like a Federal Reserve banker. I make paper, yeah, I make paper. Money out of nothing and you can pay me later.
And Assange has even said, basically, that we provide evidence of all these real conspiracies, but people keep harping on the 9/11 issue. Why is that? Well, now, like I was saying, NIST has been forced to release a bombshell, and people debate over the quantity. It's 3+ terabytes. I rounded it off about 5 terabytes. So 5,000 gigabytes of previously classified secret videos from 9/11. And if you actually go back to the day...
Video?
Yes, Giuliani made the statement that we need to collect public and private footage.
How do we get some of the video?
Well, Google 9/11 Gate, or Google James Gorley, the guy who's the real Julian Assange in my estimation. He's the one who sued NIST and acquired, through a lawsuit, all this bombshell information. And there's YouTubers like me who are on YouTube trying to dig through all this stuff in time for the 10th anniversary to push this out to people and say, look, the case is not solved. We have new information that needs to be considered. And the bottom line is, whether you're on the fence about this, or you're a truther, or you're a debunker, shouldn't we at least take the time to look at this newly released evidence? The video clip of the NYPD helicopter got a lot of views on Cryptome. The guy, John Young, he posted it on YouTube, and the clip got 9 million views in like one day. But that's nothing. That doesn't show anything. These clips show witnesses talking about bombs going off in the lobby and basement before any planes hit any towers.
Right.
Now that's just one statement. There's all this other evidence where it doesn't even show the towers coming down. It's just clips that have been censored for people having used the word bomb, or used the word explosion. So let's at least take a look at this, and maybe you could cover it on your show to gain, let this term gain some notoriety. Basically, this is 9/11 Gate, just like you have any other, gate or scandal or whatever. This is the conclusive proof that we've been waiting for, that the smoking gun that proves it's an inside job. And especially if it's been covered up for 9-10 years, doesn't the cover-up point towards they're hiding something?
Yeah.
So that's all I'm saying, is let's really take a look at this ahead of all their BBC debunking pieces that they're working on for the 10th anniversary.
Well, my whole take on 9/11, it comes from the point of view of observing the markets and the action in the options markets on the airline stocks previous to the event. It's mentioned in the 9/11 report. And the options market reflected explosions of airplanes before there were explosions of airplanes. And we know that George Tenet, who was had under his umbrella at CIA, he had Buzzy Krongard. Buzzy Krongard was at Alex Brown. Buzzy went from Alex Brown to CIA, which is right in the same neighborhood because Alex Brown is in Baltimore. And so, and we know that there's a lot of intelligence that goes back and forth. So, you can tell by looking at the trading patterns that there were lots of people who had advanced knowledge.
And that's
now,
the key
did
right
they plan it? That's another question. But could they have stopped it? Yeah, they probably could have.
And that's the key right there. Is the reason I'm so passionate about this is because even if they let it happen, that is the U.S. government, that's still criminal, having known about it and failing to stop it.
Well, of course.
So my thesis is, people always criticize the 9/11 truth movement, saying that we always tell people what not to believe, but never having a concrete hypothesis of what actually took place. So my statement is, and especially tying it into the whole economics, I think, and I want to see if you agree with this, I think it's fair to say that this wasn't the Bush administration that concocted it. This goes beyond the Bush administration. The Federal Reserve engineered 9/11, and using its shadow puppet government of the Bush administration through military coup, 9/11 was essentially a bloody military coup d'etat, where the military, having been taken over by certain elements, actually executed the attack, but it wasn't Bush that planned it. This goes back at least 60 years into the Pentagon and other
as far as the
planners.
attacks themselves, the way I have kind of come to understand that day's events is that actually the Twin Towers were not the target, they were the diversion.
Exactly.
Building 7 was always the target. I often thought that the Twin Towers attacks was outsourced, possibly to terrorist groups, and then it goes out in the open market. Say we need this, we need a job. The job goes out for bid. Comes back from these guys. Yeah, we can get this job done. You want us to do this? Okay, take down these towers on this date. So it goes out to them for bidding. They come in with a price. The price of the deal is cut, and they concoct this plan. They do this deed. But how else could you take down a building in broad daylight without anyone noticing it? Essentially. So this is a diversion. This is the David Copperfield moment. It's a diversion of this. And, oh, by the way, Building 7 collapsed too.
Yes.
And in the Building 7, that's, nothing hit it. You know, it just came down. And in that building, there's a lot of stuff that we would want to know what was in this building. A lot of records, a lot of CIA records, a lot of FBI records. There's some tie to Enron, possibly. Enron is still a looming factor in all of this, and because they were involved very heavily in every president going back has got financing from Enron. And if you look at the Kenley's funeral, if you look at the front row, there's like 4 either current or sitting presidents. The guy's enormously connected. And where is that money coming from? They invented the oil derivatives and the natural gas derivatives and the whole financialization of the energy business. America has this huge relationship with Saudi Arabia, where they get most of their energy. Here's Enron securitizing energy. You know, here's a lot of records in Building 7. Okay, so all this stuff is worth investigating. But the smoking gun for me is looking at the price action in the markets.
And that's
okay,
that's
the litmus test. That's markets. There's a saying: price precedes news. What does that mean? It means that markets are usually sensitive to the point of telegraphing news events. By the time the news hits, there's always saying, buy the news, sell the rumor. This type of thing. I'm sorry, buy the rumor, sell the news. I'm sorry, I got that reversed. But the idea that markets have a tendency to discount future events before the events actually take place. And clearly what was happening in those markets, they were telegraphing an event that had not yet happened based on enough insiders knowing enough to put enough bet. And the 9/11 report talks about it. They just say that.
And that's my main point, is that foreknowledge of 9/11 is indisputable. So my hypothesis, therefore, is that in between knowing about it, covering it up, and actually helping the attacks go forward and not stopping them as they unfurled, and then after the fact, like I said, using it for political gain, whether it's Obama's Democrat administration or Bush's Republican administration, in between, isn't it logical, not just plausible, that the government has something to do with executing the attack in between knowing about it and covering it up?
Well, to the extent that there's overlapping, but the one guy who, to me, is dirty is this Buzzy Krongard.
And they keep trying to say it's a theory that there was foreknowledge and insider trading when that's been proven.
The more
Dylan
you look into Buzzy,
and Dan Rather even
the
reported
worse it gets. The guy is the key player in that, as far as foreknowledge. He's in all the right places at the right time. He comes from Wall Street. Alex Brown is where those trades were. That's where he just came from. And this is what we explore this in our film that we're making, as I told you about. But anyway, so that's my thought on that.
One more quick point. This is going to be some food for thought. Maybe you're going to have some nightmares about this. But always to tie this back into the financial aspect, there's a whole occult aspect to 9/11. And the one thing, again, with the foreknowledge, tying that in there, no one can debunk, is that there has been a ritual carried out, not just on 9/11, but before 9/11. In the U.S. currency, it's not just on the $20 bill. If you fold the 1, 5, 10, 20, 50, and $100 denomination currency into a paper airplane, it reveals what looks like a flipbook animation from start to finish of the towers burning, and the towers no longer there. In my estimation, having studied sigil magic and the occult, this is the most successful magical ritual ever carried out. So they actually, the banksters, the Federal Reserve, going back to my hypothesis that the Federal Reserve was behind 9/11 through its puppet American government and military, they actually printed this magical ritual in the currency before the attacks themselves took place, as, like you said, a controlled demolition of the financial of American economy.
Nassim Taleb's book, Fooled by Randomness.
So it's magic. It all goes back to that.
Check it out. Fooled by Randomness. Sometimes random events can fool you. All right, guys. Thanks.
All right.
Thank you, Max.
Thank you.
Damn, it feels good to be a bankster. Damn, it feels good to be a bankster. Damn, it feels good to be a bankster. Damn, it feels good to be a